believe it was fitting for you to say what you just said, because I believe the situation with our house was the Lord giving me an opportunity to learn to trust Him and to trust Him. Hey, when Pastor asked us to give a testimony tonight, we went home and started putting our thoughts together, but we realized that, seeing that this has been going on for over 20 years, that some of you may not know what happened with our house while we're still there and all of that. So we'll start back at the beginning. Try not to take too long. I'm trying to get back where you are. So in 2001, we had an opportunity to buy a home that we came into thinking that it was brand new, newly built. What we found out later was that the house that we were looking to buy after we bought it, there was a flood in 1999 when it was being built. The first floor was destroyed, and when we came into it, they were rebuilding the first floor, and they said they were going to jack the house up and put a garage underneath. And she was in her mid-20s, and I was in the later end of my 20s, and we didn't have guidance to tell us how we should go about buying a house or what questions we should ask. So we purchased a house thinking that this was awesome. With all that being said, them jacking the house up and everything, we're still not in a flood zone. A lot of people say, well, why would you buy a house in a flood zone? Had we had the information that the house flooded, maybe we wouldn't have, but our house is still not in a flood zone. It's not zoned as flood. So 2006, I was planning on going hunting with my good buddy Dewey. I wake up 3 o'clock, and there's no storm, but the wind's blowing pretty good. I told Dewey I'm not getting in a tree with the wind blowing like this. And I go, excuse me, back to bed. Well, around, I don't know, 6 or 8, I can't remember when, I heard my answering machine go off. That's how long ago that was. But I thought I heard my neighbor screaming for help. So I call her, and she says, come and help me. And I'm like, what's going on? So finally, I head downstairs, and I look out the window, and our minivan is completely underwater. It just happened just that quick. I talked to Dewey at 3 in the morning, and just hours later, we're completely underwater. So I was able to get my boat out of the garage. I can't swim. I was able to get my boat out of the garage, and I was able to go over and get my neighbor, and then we get down the street, and the fire department doesn't have a boat, so I go back, and I help some of my other neighbors. Hours later, Dewey and I launch another boat, and we drive up and step over the railing to my house. Within a few hours, we had 15 and a half foot of water at my house, and yeah. From that time, we had several floods that maybe we'd lose a vehicle, or I would damage the garage. But fast forward to 2018, we get another 7 foot of water, rescued by boat. And then to the date, 2 years later, 9/9/2020, we got another 7 foot of water, rescued by boat. Am I missing anything? Okay.
My husband loves to be prepared, so he's like, we're going to do this outline so we don't miss anything, and there's some things I would rather you talk about, and I'm going to put your name by them and my name by them, but I appreciate that. So when 2018 and 2020 happened, of course, when the first flood happened, we had to get an SBA loan because we did not have flood insurance. And so that was essentially like having a second mortgage. And so we get asked a lot, why'd you stay? Well, you're in your 20s, you put all your money into this house, you have no flood insurance. If you walk away from it, where are you gonna go exactly? So we got the SBA loan, we rebuilt the home. Now we've got 2 mortgages, and we were kind of stuck there in a sense of we kept having floods, but we saw our neighbors sell their homes to people and never truly disclose everything, and we saw the devastation that they would go through when it happened to them, and they were like just kind of lost and confused. And we did our best to try to tell people that were moving in, like, get flood insurance, and try to tell them not to buy the house and different things, but it just never settled with us. We never had peace about just selling our house and making it someone else's problem, because it just didn't feel right. And I came across a grant that could be purchased where the government would come in and they'd say, look, these homes are not safe, and they're going to keep continuing to flood, and it's going to eventually cost the town and everybody more money and the homeowners more money. So they will buy the homes and then demolish them and not allow anything else to be built there. And so I had went to the town in 2018 and presented it with them, and they took it and they said thank you. And then I don't think they really thought much of it. They kind of put it on a shelf. But then 2 years later, when it literally happened again, they took it off and they were like, you know what, we need to do something about this. So thankfully in 2020, they applied for the grant, and that's a process. Grants take forever, because here it is 2024, and that was in 2020. But that grant was finalized in December, a couple of weeks before Christmas. And
You're skipping ahead.
did I skip? So anyway, I'll let him finish what he said.
So we had been praying about things and what to do. We had been saving money because we know that we felt that the Lord was going to provide for us.
Mm-hmm.
I switched jobs in 2020? No? What year was it? 2024. So
2022.
a couple years ago, I switched jobs, and I went from Culligan to working in a steel shop. And I don't know, I know Brother Mike knows all about this, but when you work in a steel shop, you can hear nothing. So I put earbuds in my ear, and then I put ear muffs on top of those, and still you can hear all the noise of the machine. But when I first got saved, Brother Went had told me about J. Vernon McGee, and he was listening to J. Vernon McGee on BBN. And so I was listening to the Bible and listening to different preachers, and I decided to jump back on the Bible bus. and while listening to J. Vernon McGee one day, he challenged me to, he's like, well, if there's something that you want change in your life about, if there's something you really want, and you may be praying about it, but are you praying about it every opportunity you have to pray? And I thought, we want something to happen with this house, but I'm not praying about it every opportunity I have to pray. So I got home, we talked about it, and we decided that we would pray more fervently about the house. And even when Pastor would make an altar call, no matter what the altar call was about, we were going to go forward and pray for our house. So if you see us coming up here, and you're like, oh, I thought they were saved. Yeah, but we're praying about it. We're praying about the house. And so, we prayed for the health of our kids and our family, and we prayed about our church family needs, but we wanted to make sure we would pray specifically each time for our house. And, through this whole time, we've never gone without. God has always provided for us. He's always taken care of us. Whatever we needed, we've always had. God has been good to us, even through this journey. And some people may look at these hard times and they may say, why me? Well, why not? Why not me? I count it a blessing that it is me, as hard as it is, because I know that the Lord is with us. I know that we've not done any of this by ourselves. Is it your turn again, please? Yes, your turn.
So he brought tissues because he knows I'm a crybaby. But
And when she starts crying, I'm going to cry.
But anyway, so after much praying and just waiting and waiting, that grant finalized, and we did sign the papers in December. And even that, God's given us such peace about everything. I remember a few people said, oh, December is the worst time in the world. Because with the grant being finalized, we're given 60 days to get out. So they're like, people aren't selling their houses. It's Christmas time, and the market's bad, and interest rates are bad, and everything. And Ruby said, you know what? It's just another way for God to get the glory. The timing is terrible, but it's not terrible for him. And so it's your turn.
So we started looking for houses, and we had help looking for houses. And we found two houses that, I found a house that I really liked, and it was out of our price range, way out of our price range. But I wanted to see this house, so we decided to call our agent and book that. And then I found another house that was in our price range, and I said, we'll see both of them on the same day. Here's the thing, though. The Lord has done so much for us. I've been praying that it would be something spectacular that I knew that we couldn't do for ourselves. I wanted him to have, I wanted my faith to be increased, and it has through this whole thing. But I wanted to be able to have a testimony to say, we tried to be faithful to the Lord, but he was faithful to us throughout this whole thing. We found these two houses. The first one we went into, way out of our price range. Of course, we fell in love with it. Yeah. Her especially. But we knew it was out of our price range. Then we went to see the second house, and it had a new roof, and I'm a builder more than I am a steel guy. It had a new roof, had new flooring, new deck, new appliances, and we started saying, well, that's the house that the Lord wants for us. Everything's new. We don't have to do anything to it. But the first house we looked at, it had just about everything we had been praying about.
Yeah.
But we knew it was out of our price range, and she's pushing me too. Okay, so the location was great. 3 minutes from her work, put me closer to work. The space, we've got 4 grandkids that we would like to have them and come spend the night more often. Just everything we had been praying about. Well, the second house didn't, but it was in our means. So we had got our mind wrapped around the second house. We got home, we prayed about it. I'm lost.
Well, we prayed about it, and we were like, we just didn't have a peace about making an offer on the house we could afford. And he said, you know what, let's just offer what we can afford on this other house. They'll just say no, but if what God has for us, then we'll get it. And so the Lord has worked through all of you guys. I wish I could just pinpoint everything that you guys have said through us throughout our journey that has meant something. But it was Sunday at church of revival, and or it was the Sunday after Chris's wedding. And Beth came up to me and she said, what's the word on your house? And I believe in divine appointments. I think God gives you just what you need and who you need to talk to at that moment. And so I told her, I said, we found this house we love, and we had went by the house after we looked at it, and we decided that we were going to make an offer, and we actually prayed in front of it, and we said, we want this, but if you say no, it's okay. And it was okay. And Beth said, well, you know what? That happened to somebody I know, and they gave a letter with their offer explaining why they believe that the house is for them. And I thought, wow. So the next day, I called our realtor and I said, can I give a letter? And she said, I think that's a great idea. And again, we don't know any of this stuff. You know, we bought a house 23 years ago, and we were kids then, and now we still, you know. So,
I'm still a kid.
so I said, I'm going to write a letter. So we wrote a letter, and I just believe that was God letting her tell us to do that. I believe that orchestrated things. And then we, you know, me and Ruby had talked about things, and we were like, what if they come back to us and they want to do a counteroffer? And so we prayed about it, and he said, you know, I don't want a little bit of money to keep us from getting the home that we've been praying for. So we decided on a number. And so we didn't hear anything from our realtor, and on Monday we put in the offer. We heard nothing all day. On Tuesday, all day went, we heard nothing. And then Tuesday night, she called, and she said, well, there's 3 offers that are in on the house, and 1 is the FHA loan, and 2 are conventional loans. And so they're not going to do the FHA, but they're going to consider the 2 conventionals. And if the seller agent actually knew who we were, and I believe that's God orchestrated as well. And she said, and they said that if you guys are willing to go up to what those people offered, then they'll say yes. And she said, and that offer was, and it was literally the amount that we had prayed about. And she said, so you know, you and Ruby talked about. I said, we already did. We already prayed about it. We say yes. And she said, she's like, are you sure? I was like, no, literally, we prayed about this. That's the exact number that the Lord put on our heart. So she said yes. And so I went up and I told Ruby, and of course I was emotional as always. And I said, guess what? I'm telling him about it. And he's like, praise the Lord. And they had the inspection on the house, and little details that the Lord has worked out is just overwhelming. But the house was supposed to be as is. It's a corporate relocation, and they said, you know, and there's nothing wrong with the house, but they said, don't ask us for nothing. And so our realtor said, well, you know what, there's a couple of items. You have not because you asked not. Let's just ask them. And if they say no, then, you know, so be it. Well, we fully expected them to say no. And so she called back this week, and she was like, well, they said that they did a cost on what that would cost, and they're just going to take that off the price of the house, which takes us back to our original offer. So God just has a way of, I mean, it's amazing to me. It still blows me away when I say it. I feel like it's just overwhelming, and His goodness.
Amen. Yeah. We want to thank our church family for lifting us up in prayer, for always encouraging us, offering us a place to stay, calling us when the storms came. And I don't know how we could have gotten through any of this without y'all. We love y'all, and just thank you so much. And of course, all the glory goes to God. This is all Him, and I'm overwhelmed with His goodness to us.